Hey there you guys, welcome back. Today we are going to do an Amaryllis video. First I want to just show you, each year I want to buy one new Amaryllis. This year I bought 3, so I've already planted these 2 up. I'll show you these in a second. They're sitting in the sink. I've just finished watering them. This one is Bakota. This is more of like a, what do they call this, like a spider, Cybister Amaryllis. This has more of a fine, thin petal. And then this is a double one. This is a exotic peacock, which is kind of cool. I've never really grown a double Amaryllis before. This one kind of stuck out to me. I like single flowers more than I like doubles. Same thing in roses. I prefer to have a single rose over a double rose, with the odd exception. But anyway, this one I thought was pretty cool. So exotic peacock, that is another one. And then I've got this one. This one started to sprout since it's been in here. It's so warm and humid in this room. This one's called Purple Rain. So this one was really, really pretty. And what got me here, let me open this up. The bulb size is huge. So this one will probably end up having multiple flower buds, or flower stalks. But here, there we go. This one is gigantic. So this one really would like to be, the bulb is starting to get a little bit, I'm not going to say spongy because it's not soft by any means, but I think it just needs a good drink. It needs to absorb some water and start doing its thing. But I see in here, I don't know whether you're able to see, but right in here there's a bud starting to form. So these are all leaves starting to grow. And anyway, we're going to plant this up in just a second. I want to take you over and show you my Amaryllis that I have from last year. I don't know whether you guys know, but when we moved, I ended up tossing all of my Amaryllis that I had because I planted them out in the community garden plot, and I planted them directly in the ground. And I don't know, maybe it was the soil, maybe it was insects. There was a lot of insects. Or maybe it was just me. I was watering from above, and I was probably getting water right into the little leaf junctions. So I might have caused a little bit of rot situation. But anyway, most of them just got wormy and gross, and so I just ended up tossing everything. I just wanted a fresh start. I had some really, really nice ones too. I really, one that I'm going to miss is Amaretta. So if I find that, I'm going to definitely pick it up. But I'm starting a new collection. So yeah. I think I've got like 7 or 8 now, so it's a good start. As you know, before I had quite a bit of collection. So anyway, let's go over and see what the other Amaryllis are doing, and we'll talk about them for a second, and then we'll come back and we'll plant the Purple Rain. There's a big old glare, the Purple Rain, because it's so big and beautiful. Anyway, let's go do it. Okay, so the Amaryllis are all down on this bottom grow shelf. I've got a Cymbidium right here. I've got another Cymbidium here, just hanging out. I brought them in not long ago. I wanted to get them to get a little bit of a chill, and so I'm just going to move these out of the way. And over here, there's some African violets and a oh, I can't remember what Alsobia. Alsobia. This is how I'm doing my labels now. Alsobia dianthifolia. So you see it down there. I use the Brother label printer, and I do a label. So anyway, here's the Amaryllis. This is a plumeria. This plumeria got busted off by I can't even talk. I can't even think. It was a windstorm that we had, and the Brugmansia fell over, and it ended up snapping 2 of my plumerias and my seedlings. And so I took the cuttings, I'll call them cuttings, the breakings, and I popped them into some soil, and they're starting to grow, so that's great. So now I have 2 of those ones because, yeah, the parent plant is still around, it branched out, and the tops are growing now too. So 2 of the same variety. Don't know what they are, but we'll see. So here are the Amaryllis. These Amaryllis naturally went dormant at the end of the season. It was not my intent, but it happened. So I think it was the cooler nighttime temperatures that started them into their dormancy. So they came in, they started growing a few leaves, and then they just decided to stop. So I am trying to keep them on the dry side at the moment, but I am giving them a drink. I've got a little lemon seedling in here. I need to try to make sure that it gets enough water. So it's a little bit of a juggling game, trying to make sure that this doesn't rot out, but because it's dormant, but make sure that there's enough water to keep this one alive until this one decides to grow. Bill, why don't you just separate them? Well, that's a great idea, and I will probably do that very, very soon. So anyway, as you can see, they're all dormant. I haven't cleaned them up. I haven't unpotted them. They are just sitting here under some lights. When they decide to grow, I'll be ready. And looks like this one over here has some green in there, but it's still not doing anything. I have no idea what these varieties are. I think one of them is a black pearl. The other ones were just grocery store finds. They were on sale, dirt cheap. I bought them at the end of the season, and I think I got them for a couple of dollars each, but they were saying that they were one thing, like one was supposed to be white, but then it turned out to be pink and white, and then the ones that were pink and white turned out to be, I don't know, they weren't what they were supposed to be. And I think that this one here might be Papillo, which is a really, really nice variety. And yeah, so these are my Amaryllis that I had from before, and they are all dormant. So I guess if there's 5 here and I bought 3, that means that my new total is 8. So let's get back there and we'll plant an Amaryllis. I lie. There's another one. This is probably the Papillo, because Papillo tends to have a much smaller bulb. And Papillo is the butterfly, I believe, Amaryllis. It's got a really beautiful flower. So this one hasn't gone dormant, but it's just doing its thing. It's not going to flower. I'm not even going to attempt to try to have it go dormant, because the bulb size really should increase. I'm going to put it back outside in the spring and see what goes on, and hopefully it will gain enough energy to be able to bloom next year. I'm not going to force any of my Amaryllises to do anything that they don't want to do. Some years they will bloom, some years they will not bloom, but we'll do our best to try to have them bloom every year. But as you might not know, it takes a lot of energy for an Amaryllis bulb to bloom. So you're going to notice that after it blooms, the bulb is going to get significantly smaller, and it needs to regain that energy. So you want it to grow as long as you can. You want to feed it well, you want to look after it, you want to baby it, and you want this bulb to get huge. You want it to get as big as possible, because the bigger the bulb, the bigger the show. So if you want to try to have it bloom every year, each year it's going to get a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller, until it blooms itself to death, kind of thing. So you want to really nurture it and make sure that it gets what it needs. So just keep that in mind. Don't cut off the leaves right after it finishes flowering, saying, "Oh, I want it to bloom again." You really should let the leaves grow for at least 5 or 6 months at least. It's even better to have it grow for another year and prolong the blooming and just have a really good show. So that's why I have all kinds of Amaryllis, because I want them to size up. I want them to do their thing. So anyway, enough about that. Let's get back to planting. Hey there, we're back to the potting bench. So we've got the big Amaryllis bulb, if I figured out where my camera's going. And I've got a standard size pot. I think that this is probably about a 10-inch pot. And then I'm also going to use a pot cover, a little festive pot cover. So this Amaryllis is going to do just fine in this pot. You really want to give it enough space so the roots can develop and feed and do their thing, because the roots actually get quite large, big strap-like roots. And one thing that they will tell you when you're buying an Amaryllis or whatever, is that it doesn't really require a big pot, which is kind of true, but you want to, they say the rule of thumb is to have at least 1 inch of soil around the bulb itself, but it's always better to go just a little bit bigger. Why not give it a little bit bigger of a home? Rather than having it really jammed in there. So I think that this pot is decent enough. I could go a little bit bigger, but it would be a waste of space on my end. So this is going to be the pot cover. This pot will fit right in there just like that. It's perfect, and it's a little bit festive. So, okay, so over here I've got the soil. I've got a general all-purpose potting soil. This, I believe, is peat-based. In my area, the peat bogs, it's plentiful around here. So I know a lot of people say that you shouldn't use peat because we're running out, and that's true in a lot of areas. But this area here is a lot of peat. Anyway, it's got a lot of perlite, a lot of drainage. You want something that is moisture retaining but free draining. So you want it to be able to stay moist, but you want it to be able to dry out fairly quickly. You don't want it to be sitting in a pool of water, and you want good airflow to the roots. So anyway, I'm going to just fill up this pot. Let's bring it down, and you can see what I'm doing at a pot level. All right, let's fill this up. I'm gonna go pretty well to the top. Since there's no real root development here, I don't need to make a lot of space for it. It will grow down and be one with a pot eventually. So I'm going to fill it up so that there's about 1 inch of space at the top of the pot, just a rule of thumb. I'm just going to make a little divot in the pot here. I'm just going to say a dividend in the pot. I'm going to move these roots so that they're down below. I'm just going to just rotate it in there. You want to have some of the bulb exposed. It's as simple as that. Super, super easy. Planting amaryllis couldn't be any easier, I don't think. And now what I'm going to do, because I'm going to do a little bit of decorative planting. Actually, I'll just show you what I'm going to do because I've already done a few. I'm going to add some moss around the edge. Just going to add some sphagnum moss. Just mostly for decorative. You don't have to do this. Just a little bit nicer than looking at soil. Here we go. And then, because amaryllis get nice and tall, the flower spikes, and the leaves too. The leaves are strap light, and if you don't get enough sun, they like to flop over. So you're going to want something that holds the leaves up. So now we got the pot here, and then I'm just going to plunge these in, just around the bulb. It'll kind of be a little bit decorative, and it'll have something to lean on. So you've made yourself a little trellis. I'm going to put little Christmas ornaments down in the base, so that it adds a little bit more interest as well when I bring this up and have it on display. But let's put it in its little thing. So I'll show you all 3 of them that I have completed. Oh yes, and watering. When you water this, you want to, while it's still kind of in a dormant phase, you want to keep the soil just damp. It doesn't want to be wet, it doesn't want to be dry. Just damp. If it's completely dormant, dry is fine if you want it to stay in dormancy. But you just want it to be a little bit damp. It'll wake up, and the leaves and the flower spike are going to start to grow. If all you see is a flower spike, it's still dormant. Don't really increase the watering. Just keep it damp. When you want to start increasing the watering is when you get like a few really good-sized leaves coming out. You'll notice that it sucks up the water a lot faster. Then you'll want to increase your watering. But make sure not to overwater. These guys will rot. They don't like to sit in water when they're not actively growing. Let me move this camera up again. So when you're growing these in the house, you want to make sure that they are in a bright location. I find that the brighter the better, because if they are lacking in the light department, you'll notice that they really start to flop, like I was saying. Temperature, they just want average home temperature. That should be fine. I put mine out in the summertime. I put them outside. I put them in a part shade location outside. They don't want to be in full afternoon sun. Actually, I've had them in full sun, and they do okay, but just watch for burn. If they start to burn, you want to move them into a shadier spot. But generally, they want a part shade. Morning sun is perfect. And let's go and see what... oh, and fertilizer. These guys like to feed, especially after they're finished flowering. Feed them just like your regular houseplants. you want to feed them with a balanced fertilizer. You want I would say, you know what, do a high middle number, just like an ultra bloom fertilizer, because you want to feed the bulb so that it produces a bud for next year. So you want to feed, and then fingers crossed that you did it well enough, and then next season you can have blooms again. So anyway, let's go and see the 3 that I have planted already, and fingers crossed I'll show you on Instagram when they start to bloom. So here they are. All 3 of them are planted. They're looking pretty nice. This is the first year I put the sticks in. I've always intended on it, but this year I put them in as I planted them, as you'll probably notice. And I really like it. And soon enough I'm going to put something else in the pots just as decoration. But right now they look pretty nice. So like I said, keeping them just damp until they start to grow. And yeah, it's just a waiting game. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a little bit long, but if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. And yeah, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And show me your Amaryllis. Post it to the Plants and Things What's Growing Facebook page, and I'd love to see them. Anyway, until next time, everyone, happy growing.